Hello and welcome to Lead Presents School EdTech, Solving India's Core Education Problem, partnered by ET Now. India's education system is in the midst of a paradigm shift. And while the pandemic has accelerated the adoption of digital technology, technology in and of itself is not a one-size-fits-all solution for securing a child's future. So how do we ensure that technology is thoughtfully deployed in our classrooms and aligned with and for a well-defined purpose? Well, it's a complex question and it deserves to be approached from a 360-degree perspective. And fortunately, I'm joined by a panel of subject matter experts to help me do just that. We have with us Manish Sisodia, Deputy Chief Minister of Delhi; Vrinda Swarup, former Education Secretary, Government of India; Sumit Mehta, Co-founder and Chief Executive Officer, LEAD; Dr. Anil Sahasrabuddhe, Chairperson, All India Council for Technical Education; and Narayan Ramaswamy, National Leader, Education and Skill Development, KPMG India.
A tete-a-tete with Deputy CM of Delhi, Manish Sisodia, kick-started the webinar where he spoke about mindful adoption of technology in schools and the impact of digital technology on the education system. He also emphasized on inducting a cultural change in our approach towards driving education and the introduction of virtual classrooms by the Delhi government.
मेरा कहना है कि टेक्नोलॉजी में वो पावर है कि आज देश और दुनिया में स्कूलों की जो एक्सेसिबिलिटी की प्रॉब्लम है वो सॉल्व हो सकती है, लेकिन उसके लिए एजुकेशन सिस्टम को आउट ऑफ द बॉक्स सोचना पड़ेगा। हम ये सोचें कि एनसीईआरटी ने किताब तैयार कर दी है, से हिस्ट्री की तैयार या मैथमेटिक्स साइंस की कोई किताब तैयार कर दी है, और उस किताब को लैपटॉप पे बैठ के या इंटरनेट पे बैठ के कैसे पढ़ाया जा सकता है, ये वर्चुअल स्कूल या टेक्नोलॉजी का सही उपयोग नहीं होगा। अगर हम टेक्नोलॉजी का ऑप्टिमम यूटिलाइजेशन करना चाहते हैं एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर के रूप में, स्कूल एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन के रूप में या टीचर्स के रूप में, सबसे पहली जरूरत है कि हम एजुकेशन मतलब टेक्नोलॉजी के इर्द गिर्द जिसको हम एजुकेशन कहेंगे उसको बदलें। वो कैरिकुलम तैयार करें कि एक टीचर 15 मिनट 20 मिनट आधा घंटा बच्चे के साथ कुछ इंटरेक्ट करे और उसको ये ना सिखाए कि ये कंटेंट है 4 पढ़ने का, इसको आज पढ़ लो, इसको सीख लो। नहीं, वो ये सिखाए कि देखो आज हमारा ये टॉपिक है और इसको ऐसे सीखा जा सकता है, ऐसे हम आप अपने घर से सीखो, अपने आसपास से सीखो, अपने मार्केट, अपने सोसाइटी, अपने आसपास की दुनिया से सीखो, आप दुनिया में जहां भी रह रहे हो, हम यहाँ से आपको असिस्ट करेंगे कि सीखा कैसे जा सकता है। अभी हमारा सारा का सारा एजुकेशन जो सिस्टम है वर्तमान वाला, वो कहीं ना कहीं कंक्लूड कर रहा है कि भाई मैंने कुछ समझना है, अब आपको मैं कुछ समझा देता हूँ और वो कंक्लूजन है। नहीं, बच्चे को एनालिटिकल बनाना है कि हम बच्चे को एनालिसिस करना सिखाएं, उसको कहें कि अपने घर से, अपने आसपास से, वातावरण से सीखो, तब वो सही उपयोग होगा टेक्नोलॉजी का। अगर हम अपने स्कूल सिस्टम को यहाँ ले आए, खासतौर से स्कूल सिस्टम को, यूनिवर्सिटी सिस्टम को अगर हम यहाँ ले आए, तो आप यकीन मानिए कि एक टीचर जो अभी बामुश्किल 40-50 बच्चों को पढ़ा रहा है, एक साथ 4-4 लाख बच्चों को गाइड कर पाएगा टेक्नोलॉजी के इस्तेमाल से। देश और दुनिया में एजुकेशन की कमी नहीं रहेगी, क्वालिटी टीचर्स की कमी नहीं रहेगी। बस हमें टेक्नोलॉजी को अडॉप्ट करते हुए टेक्नोलॉजी के हिसाब से करिकुलम तैयार करना है।
सर, हम आपके बहुत आभारी हैं. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. We are truly honored and deeply humbled. Now, as we move on to what promises to be a power-packed panel discussion, and Sumit, I'd love to kick off this discussion with you. EdTech has been making headlines, with 4 EdTech unicorns emerging in the last 24 months alone. So can tech become that silver bullet that solves our education challenges at the very core? What's your take?
Well, Pooja, I mean, the fact that education has been in the news is great because we need to raise the level of importance that we as a nation give to education of our children. But the edtech unicorns hide a few deeper issues. I think it's important for us to look at them. The first one is that children spend 6 hours in school and 1 hour at tuition, and that too not all students. And the edtech that is popular today focuses on that 1 hour. If we want to transform the learning outcomes of our students and focus on the whole child, not just on exam prep, then we need to leverage technology to improve our schools. As Mr. Sisodia also said, we need to completely transform how teaching learning happens. We need school edtech. School edtech can truly empower teachers with the tools and methods to teach well. It can enable principals and school administrators to run their school as a world-class institution. But most importantly, it can give agency to the child because it will open up access to learning beyond their local resources. So that the 6 hours a child spends in the school are worth their while. So that's the first one. The second is, if you look at all edtech companies today, they focus on the metrics of adoption and engagement. Now, these metrics are important, but they're not sufficient because the purpose of education, I believe, is what Gandhiji said: prepare capable adults who can earn a living, prepare responsible citizens who can contribute to nation building, and most importantly, prepare good human beings who can live in harmony with each other and the earth. And we need to build technology to achieve this purpose.
Building on some of your observations, Sumit, I'd like to now come to Vrinda. Vrinda, now that we've understood what technology can do, what are some things that technology can't do? Where exactly do its limitations lie?
So I think technology has permanently now squarely entered the school education framework, and it has many good things which emerge from it. But there are still limitations, and one of them is, of course, the biggest one, which is of access. So if you're looking at a countrywide scenario and you have report upon report, both from government as well as from the private sector coming in, which is saying that students' access to technology is still a very, very big gap. So amongst the rural areas, apparently only 20% are able to access anything which is online or supported from their schools, or anything which is available on the net. Technology introduction has changed the whole pedagogy of a classroom, of how classrooms are transacted, how learning happens, how evaluation happens. And technology is a big role player in that, as it has emerged over the last 2 years in school education. So how do you adapt curriculum to this? That old pedagogy will not stay. It has to adapt, it has to merge, it has to come up with a better branding of curricular transaction and classroom interaction. And I think that is most fundamental to recognize. And in a sense, it is a limitation, but in a sense, it's an evolving, growing platform.
Thank you, Vrinda, for that incredibly comprehensive overview. And with that, I'd love to bring Anil into the conversation. And Anil, my question to you is the proliferation of smartphones, in every household, and perhaps more specifically, now in every child's pocket, is that all positive, or is there a drawback?
The telephone or mobile, the whole innovations sector which has come in is going to help in a great way. I will come to some other examples a little bit later, but essentially the technology which is transforming continuously and the new national education policy which has come in place, coupled with the pandemic, these are all cascading effects which are going to certainly increase the gross enrollment ratio, the power of technology in the hands of students to learn anything, anywhere, anytime.
Well, Narayanan, let me now come to you from a different perspective. And I'd like your take on how you assess the short-term as well as the long-term impact of technology-powered classrooms in the context of a child's mental, physical, social, and ultimately psychological development.
Imagine you are in a village and the school, earlier the classroom was restricted to what you know within that village. And psychologically, suddenly you become part of a much larger world. So it can help. But all these things are in the medium to long term. But in short term, what is happening? We are using the digital only mode, whereby we are trying to use digital as a substitute for what we have. And that is causing all those issues. And hence, suddenly physically you're confined to the classroom, your physical growth is not happening. Socially, you have actually become a lot more inward driven. So you're not a social. One of the reasons why people go to school rather than doing homeschooling, so that you get and develop the social aspects.
Of course.
What if you go to the classroom and that becomes another cocoon where you don't interact with others?
Right.
And similarly, impact on cycles. So all I'm saying is, which is exactly what Vrinda ma'am was also saying, please understand this new medium called digital technology, the online platform, can you adapt yourself to this new medium? Like earlier, there was a Gurukula system where there was only one teacher and the teaching learning happened very differently there.
Absolutely. And Sumit, Narayanan just referred to big shifts. So building on that, do you believe that school curriculums themselves need a technology overhaul?
I think it's important that we situate this conversation in a context that we are undergoing a transition of schools from completely digital and online during the pandemic. But as schools are reopening, I think we need to take this opportunity not just to transform curriculum. I would say the whole school needs a transformation uh, because this is a historic opportunity. As schools are reopening, they can relapse or revert to their pre-pandemic state, which would be uh, a huge travesty, but I think they can also use this opportunity to transform. I would say that transformation in schools would need to go much beyond curriculum and technology. It needs to start with a transformation in culture that puts more agency in the hands of the child, which is what Mr. Sisodia was saying in the beginning. Transformation in school operations so that we can move away from a linear approach that just teaches, tests, award marks, and then move students forward without solving their learning gaps. We also need transformation in curriculum so that the standards we expect from our children are at a world-class level, and we don't restrict ourselves to basic literacy and numeracy alone. And lastly, we require transformation in pedagogy, which is what Ms. Vrinda and Narayan were saying, that children should be able to learn in ways that are rooted in neuroscience, that are rooted in action research, and they're not constrained by what is available locally. We can implement systems in schools that make this change consistently possible. We can improve school practices by embedding them in systems so that schools can operate at a world class level by putting the tools and resources in the hands of a teacher in the classroom. So the solutions for school transformation are there, and the possibilities are really endless. We just need two things. One is a policy intent, and second, velocity of implementation.
And with that, I take it to you, Anil, because many schools, the fact of the matter is, are struggling on an operational level. And they're looking for solutions to better manage their edtech deployment strategies.
I think this whole pandemic really catapulted entire education sector to adopt technology. Of course, initially there were a lot of hiccups. We were not used to it. The connectivity also in all the locations was not as robust as we wanted, and therefore certainly there were challenges. Also, teachers were never used to teaching in an online mode. We are all used to the classroom mode of teaching learning, naturally using Blackboard or sometimes using PowerPoint presentation, but we never spoke to the camera directly through either a laptop or a PC. And that is why there were a lot of challenges in the beginning. Gradually, our teachers, right from school, in fact, forget school, from the kindergarten onwards till higher education, each one of them have experimented in their own way and learned from each other. And therefore, although there were initial challenges and hiccups, today we can confidently say the education using technology, using internet is the order of the day.
Phenomenal. And Narayanan, let's switch gears for a moment because I'd love to talk policy. So what role can and must policymakers play in strengthening the country's edtech infrastructure? Your thoughts?
Oh, thank you. I think policy should and will play a vital role in the transformation that we are seeing. Like it happens in many occasions, the change happens without the policy makers even aware of it. And this is a change that got accelerated because of COVID-19 and related lockdown that happened. So it's time that policymakers and the regulators come and make those changes. But what is heartening is national education policy talks about an extensive use of technology in teaching and learning, in removing language barriers, and also using digital technologies in education planning, management, and administration. There's a clear direction that is there even in NEP.
Absolutely.
And even beyond that, I think in primary education, some of the things that we should look at policy aiding in terms of aiding the teachers, particularly in terms of online learning, both in service and pre-service, language barriers for teacher to reach out to the children, formation of digital libraries, and particularly, like I guess Brinda ma'am also said about how do you teach differently abled children, people who have special needs. Largely, I think policy should enable the transparency of the regulatory body itself, and that is where digital technologies, in my view, could help a lot.
Sure.
Last but not the least, I would also think the policy should take care of the human element that could be missing if we don't give it a conscious thought. I would think these are the areas that the policymakers should focus and make sure they happen.
Phenomenal. And, my next question is to all of our panelists, because I'd like for each of them to share their individual perspective. And Sumit, I'll start with you. I'd love your take on whether you believe students that are nurtured in an edtech rich environment are better equipped to meet life's future challenges, be it on a professional or a personal level.
Well, edtech is not a silver bullet, so it all depends on the purpose for which the edtech is designed and what is it designed to deliver. So, if edtech is all about test prep, homework tuitions, doubt resolution, the kind of edtech that is available today, then I would say students will be able to pass exams better. But if edtech is really used to increase their access to better teachers, resources, and exposure beyond their local constraints, then it can definitely help. If edtech is used to make learning better and deeper by making it multimodal, it will definitely help. And if it can personalize a student's development so that they can learn not only at their pace but also in their areas of interest, then it will truly equip them for the future. So it all depends on how edtech is going to be used, not edtech by itself.
A very valid point. And Vrinda, I'd love your take on the same topic.
So edtech is definitely an enhancer and it equips the student better with all the caveats that the previous speaker has said. But even if I envisage that in a normal good government school or in a private school, technology has zoomed into the classrooms and it's being used with whatever ability the teacher is using it, and whatever access and opening up of the world of learning that it is giving to the student. As they grow older, we must understand students are able to learn and negotiate with what is available on the net or which is available to them with technology and be able to deal with it themselves. In the younger years, they need interpreters or guides like the teacher.
Right.
But I think in this kind of a scenario, edtech will only enhance a child's ability to be able to negotiate, higher studies, and the world is getting increasingly digitized, and every student must have that ability to be able to negotiate with an informed, a balanced, and a mature outlook towards technology, education technology.
Fair enough. And Anil, what's your take on the extent to which edtech equips a child to cope with life's future challenges?
This is a very tricky problem actually. There is empowerment. There are possibilities of using technology in variety of ways, as I have already said. But very important thing in using technology is it is artificial intelligence based, possibly personalized learning, which is possible through this use of technology better than anywhere else and in any other form. Well, I'm giving a simple example of a class with about 50 odd students. Each student's learning curve is likely to be different. Each one's earlier preparation in order to take that learning is also different. They come from different backgrounds. Someone would have studied some part of the program earlier, someone has not. And their starting points are different. But we want the outcome, the end result to be same. So naturally, someone who has already learned something can go faster, and someone who is little slower or who has not done it earlier will take longer time. But in a classroom environment where all 60, 50 children are sitting together, we will not be able to address to the needs and requirements of every child. It is here where the technology is an enabler. looking at where you are, it will guide you through, it will mentor you through, it will take you through a journey which is either shorter or longer. Someone will do it faster, someone will do it slower. Some part of the education in the face-to-face classroom environment, on the playground, in the open air, in the classroom, everywhere. But the other part is by staying at our respective homes also, we can learn many things which otherwise we were not able to learn.
Well, Narayanan, do you share the same sentiment? What's your view?
So here is my take. As long as we make digital technologies ubiquitous, that is, it is available for a much wider, if not, if possible, to all the students who need it. And second, if you can also make it multidimensional, either through blended learning or through introducing maybe artificial intelligence, some of the advanced ones, so that you can augment that to the extent possible so that it becomes multidimensional. So if we do these two, I think this is going to be a big enabler and a game changer for us.
Phenomenal. And Sumit, I'd love to now come to you for closing comments. Now, LEAD presents School EdTech Solving India's Core Education Problem is, of course, a three-part dialogue series wherein we've truly had the opportunity to engage with movers and shakers across the EdTech space. So if you could perhaps summarize some of the most fundamental, critical, and perhaps even surprising takeaways that emerged from these conversations.
I think if you ask me, there are 2-3 important insights that we've gleaned over the last 3 panels. COVID, even though it was an unwanted event, we can convert this crisis into an opportunity of truly transforming education. And the way to transform this education is to think about the purpose of education in a holistic sense, and then leverage what's available today, which is the power of technology, to really bring that purpose to life. And that's where school edtech can play a big part by helping schools transform. I think we need to change the definition of edtech to not just mean direct to student learning, AR, VR, AI, ML. We need to expand the definition of edtech to mean how do we empower our teachers to really teach at the level of world-class teachers by bringing multimodal learning? How do we truly transform our schools by transforming their workflows to become institutions of excellence? How do we personalize learning for students so that every student can learn at their pace and pursue their interest? And I think this historic opportunity is there because we are in a place where as schools reopen, they can reset the bar. And I think if we don't leverage this opportunity, we would have done a disservice to our students.
Well, I think that makes for a wonderful note upon which to close. And I have to thank all of our panelists, each for sharing such vivid opinions and varied opinions. It's added a very rich dimension to the entire conversation. And with that, our special series, LEAD presents School EdTech, Solving India's Core Education Problem, partnered by ET Now, concludes. We trust that you found the insights shared of value. Thanks for watching.